Let him take me to jail. But you're not gonna...
Neon promises blaze over Lower Broadway every night, selling the idea that country music is the last honest soundtrack America still trusts. 3 chords, a cracked voice, and confession without makeup. Yet honesty in this genre often rides shotgun with lawlessness. Behind the fiddles and focus-grouped playlists sit case files thick as hymnals. Gunsmoke leaks between verses, mugshots hide behind hit singles, and the line separating marketing from mayhem is sometimes drawn in chalk outside a saloon. Tonight our tour bus rumbles down those darker back roads, headlights sweeping over wrecked careers and still smoldering rumors. We will meet 12 voices who turned personal catastrophe into platinum, who proved that in country music, the outlaw brand is not just a slogan, it is lived experience. Keep your hands inside the ride and your bail money ready. Before we barrel further, it helps to understand why the business rarely slammed the door on repeat offenders. Record executives in the 60s and 70s discovered something radio programmers later quantified. Every time a headline linked an artist to sirens, sales reports spiked. Outrage sparked curiosity. Curiosity sold singles. Publicists kept bail bondsmen on speed dial, then telephoned columnists with softly phrased statements of concern that doubled as free advertising. Country's core storyline, the outsider longing for acceptance, only grew more persuasive when performers looked genuinely untamed. Producers layered marketing campaigns over real misdemeanors like fresh lacquer over barnwood. If a conviction risked radio banishment, they called in favors or rerouted tours through regions with forgiving station managers. More than once, label attorneys walked into courtrooms armed not just with legal briefs but with boxes of promotional 45s for secretaries and bailiffs. Most fans never saw the chess game. They only felt the thrill of rebellion packaged in 3 minutes of twang. The formula became so entrenched that newer artists sometimes staged minor scandals, bar fights, weed busts, to prove bona fides, a twisted rite of passage carved into the industry's unwritten bylaws. Our first stop is Memphis, October 23, 1976. A newly waxed Lincoln Continental fishtails toward the bulletproof gates of Graceland. The driver is Jerry Lee Lewis, piano-pounding wild child once branded the killer for the way he attacked a keyboard, and Whisperer's note, for the suspicious string of tragedies shadowing his marriages. Hours earlier, Lewis had crashed another luxury car into a ditch, slashed his lip, and kept the party rolling with a bottle of bourbon. Now, bleeding and furious, he waves a .38 revolver and demands that Elvis wake up and face him. Security calls the cops. Flashing blue domes turn the mansion's white columns into prison stripes, and officers carefully disarm the slurring legend. Photographers capture him glass-eyed, shirt half untucked, pistol dangling like an afterthought, a stark contrast to the suited gentleman who once lit pianos on fire for applause. The arrest makes national headlines. Critics tisk, fans cheer, sales spike. Rumors quickly resurface about the 1983 drowning of his fifth wife, Shawn, a case officially ruled an accident but whispered about in every roadhouse. Lewis walks away with a misdemeanor fine and a fresh page in rock folklore. Ask any bar band today to cover Great Balls of Fire, and the crowd will scream, yet few will picture that revolver glinting under Memphis streetlights. That is the seductive magic of outlaw country. Felonies fade into foot-stomping choruses faster than you can shout, "Go, cat, go." Roll the tape back 15 years and shift west to the Mojave Desert. Spade Cooley, fiddle virtuoso and television heartthrob, once drew ratings higher than Frank Sinatra. Fans adored his cowboy king charisma, but jealousy ate at him like slow acid. On April 3, 1961, convinced that wife Ella Mae planned to run away with a younger man, Cooley locked the bedroom door of their ranch house in Kern County. For hours he beat, kicked, and tortured her while their teenage daughter Teresa listened from the doorway, too terrified to intervene. When Ella Mae finally fell silent, he ordered Teresa to fetch water and clean the blood, warning that the same fate awaited her if she told anyone. Teresa ran instead to a sheriff. The courtroom details rattled even hardened reporters. Broken ribs, cigarette burns, a crushed skull. Cooley, wearing a tailored suit and forced smile, claimed temporary insanity. The jury did not buy it. He received a life sentence but charmed officials with prison concerts so well received that by 1968 he earned a furlough to perform at a benefit. Moments after taking a standing ovation, he collapsed backstage from a massive heart attack. The headline the next morning read, "Fiddle King Dies Seeking Redemption," proving tragedy can sometimes snap cleanly into the shape of poetic justice, even if the tune lingers in a darker minor key. Violence stayed in vogue as the decades changed. March 31st, 2007, Papa Joe's Texas Saloon, a cinder-block watering hole with neon longnecks in every window. Singer-songwriter Billy Joe Shaver, then 67 and still rawhide tough, shared tequila shots with an acquaintance named Billy Coker. The conversation soured over drunken braggadocio. Witnesses said Coker reached for a pocket knife. Shaver reached for a small automatic pistol. He paused, leveled the barrel, and famously asked, "Where do you want it?" The bullet pierced Coker's cheek, exited his neck, and left him staggering but alive. Shaver climbed onto his Harley and roared toward Waco, stopping at a roadside church to pray before turning himself in. Charged with aggravated assault, he faced up to 20 years. At trial, defense lawyers painted Coker as the aggressor, and Willie Nelson's testimony about Shaver's gentle soul did not hurt. The jury deliberated 2 hours and acquitted. Outside, Shaver grinned through weathered wrinkles and said he hoped the shooter would learn from the ordeal. Texans love tall tales, and Billy Joe's legend only swelled. Concert attendance spiked, and a new t-shirt reading, "Where do you want it?" became the must-have souvenir on the red dirt circuit. Johnny Paycheck presented a more combustible cocktail of pride and bitterness. Born Donald Lytle in the coal towns of Ohio, he clawed his way through honky-tonks until a fistfight with management inspired his signature hit, "Take this job and shove it." Success did not mellow him. On December 19, 1985, Paycheck strutted into the North High Lounge in Hillsboro, a humble bar where regulars debated deer season and pool scores. A patron offered him a swig of homemade schnapps and joked about exotic duck recipes. Paycheck took offense, snapped that he wanted "no effing duck," and produced a chrome-plated .22 Derringer, the slug-drilled truck driver Larry Wise just above the ear. Miraculously, Wise lived to testify. Paycheck claimed self-defense, but prosecutors framed him as a short-fused star, spoiled by sycophants. The jury convicted him of felonious assault and a firearms charge, sentencing him to 7 years. He served 22 months before Governor Richard Celeste granted a pardon that critics condemned as political theater. Paycheck emerged still defiant, released an album titled Old Violin, and told reporters prison had merely added grit to his baritone. If anything, the stint reinforced the outlaw creed he had been marketing all along. If marketing demanded the strangest biography imaginable, David Allan Coe delivered. He spent his 13th birthday inside a juvenile facility, escaped, stole cars, returned, escaped again, and eventually graduated to the Ohio State Penitentiary, where he observed old Sparky's electric chair during hallway work detail. Coe later insisted a fellow inmate propositioned him, prompting a fatal knife fight, an event prison logs dispute. True or not, the story fit the mythology he cultivated. Confederate flag capes, rhinestone cod pieces, and lyrics so explicit that record stores kept them under the counter. Living out of a Pontiac hearse parked behind the Ryman Auditorium, he busked until Shel Silverstein noticed and pushed him into the Nashville machine. Hits like "You Never Even Called Me by My Name" crossed over to mainstream, yet left enough grit to satisfy bikers. Every interview invited new embellishments. He was half Cherokee, half white trash. He wrote outlaw anthems in solitary confinement. He was once targeted by the Ku Klux Klan. Whether fact or fiction, each tale added dollar signs. Fans didn't want background checks. They wanted danger bottled into melody, and Coe obliged with a grin full of gold teeth. Myth-making then becomes its own symbiotic creature. Journalists hungry for clicks repeat half-verified legends. The artist, cornered by the rumor mill, discovers that denial kills mystique faster than confirmation. Better, many decide, to wink and let listeners fill the blank spaces with imagination. In that vacuum flourish tall tales about knife fights in mess halls or clandestine affairs with truck stop waitresses that later bloom into chart-topping ballads. The distinction between autobiography and screenplay blurs, and eventually even the protagonist loses track. Years after Coe's electric chair stories circulated, Nashville historian Brian Turpin sifted archives and found no corroborating death certificates. By then, it did not matter. The lyric sheet had become scripture, and scripture seldom bends to footnotes. Steve Earle once quipped that country music is just blues with a white trash accent, but he could have added that it is also pulp fiction with pedal steel reality show before reality television, a genre where the hero frequently narrates his own rap sheet in the bridge. If consumers occasionally confuse pose with proof, the marketplace barely notices, busy pressing the next batch of vinyl confessions. Addiction rarely spares creative lightning. Steve Earle's ascent in the late 80s, arena tours, award nominations, guest spots on Miami Vice, hit a growing mountain of syringes and glassine bags. When police raided a crack house in 1993, they found the Grammy nominee barefoot, muttering lyrics into a broken cassette player. Charged with possession of heroin and cocaine, he spent 60 days in Tennessee's coldest county jail, detoxing on a metal bunk while mice scurried beneath. The experience peeled him raw. He emerged skeletal but sober, and his comeback album, Train-A-Comin', won Best Contemporary Folk Performance, turning recovery itself into art. Willie Nelson chose botanicals over powder. For decades, police considered it almost a rite of passage to seize marijuana from Nelson's tour buses. The most infamous bust came Thanksgiving weekend 2010 at a Border Patrol checkpoint in Sierra Blanca, Texas, where agents discovered 6 pounds in airtight jars. Nelson's casual response, "It's a good thing I had already smoked most of it," went viral before viral was a metric. He paid a small fine, posed for a grinning mugshot, and pivoted the publicity into lobbying for cannabis reform, founding Farm Aid spin-offs that linked hemp to rural revival. In the Willieverse, vice became virtue, and the outlaw image morphed into elder statesman activism without shedding an ounce of mischief. Alcohol hits others with blunt force. Glen Campbell's resume sparkled. Wrecking Crew guitarist, host of a variety show that pulled 30 million viewers, an interpreter of Jimmy Webb ballads that could crack granite, yet bottle caps rattled louder than applause by the 2000s. On November 24, 2003, Campbell left a Scottsdale golf course in a BMW 5 Series, drifted across lanes, and clipped a Toyota. He fled, was arrested at home, and attempted to knee an officer during booking while singing out-of-tune snatches of Rhinestone Cowboy. The courts handed down 10 nights in jail, 2 years probation, and mandatory rehab, but morning shows played the mugshot on loop for weeks. Campbell, to his credit, later used the cautionary tale in interviews about sobriety. Toby Keith's legal troubles were less official, yet equally rowdy. Born Toby Keith Covell, the 6'4" former oilfield roughneck never quite shook the urge to swing first. In 2003, he reportedly punched a fan in a Peoria nightclub after the man called him a political slur. Another brawl in Vegas left a would-be selfie taker with a split lip. Keith's lawyers usually settled claims quietly, and police seldom filed charges. He capitalized on the dust-ups with swaggering singles like "Courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue," reminding everyone that sometimes the outlaw brand wears a Stetson stamped "Made in America." Personal appetites crashed careers long before TMZ. Lefty Frizzell, whose buttery vibrato influenced every twang-laden crooner that followed, was arrested in 1951 after taking a 14-year-old fan to a Kilgore, Texas motel. He pleaded guilty to statutory rape and spent 6 months in county jail, emerging to find radio programmers had dropped him overnight. Rather than vanish, He poured contrition into vinyl, releasing "I Love You 1,000 Ways," a letter set to music begging forgiveness. The public, moved by sincerity or distracted by melody, welcomed him back. Faron Young took the opposite trajectory. Dubbed the hillbilly heartthrob, he relished roughhousing with soldiers while touring military bases. Arrests for groping a female reporter, for shooting a gun from his boat on Old Hickory Lake, for public drunkenness, each seemed a carnival ticket to the next fiasco. By the 1990s, alcoholism had eroded his liver and his patience. Unable to land a new record deal and depressed by tinnitus, Young left a note blaming Nashville for forgetting him, then fatally shot himself in 1996. News anchors, uncomfortable with suicide talk, tiptoed around the tragedy, but fans filled message boards with laments that the industry discards its own once the glamour fades. Lost in the roar of amplifiers are the quieter voices. Ella Mae Cooley, Larry Wise, the Condors, unnamed waitresses, estranged children, backup musicians who quit in fear. They appear briefly in police affidavits, then vanish as plot devices in someone else's redemption arc. Country lyricists excel at bottling sorrow, yet the genre often sidelines real sorrow when it undercuts the heroic outlaw frame. Industry retrospectives wax poetic about grit and perseverance, while relatives of the injured skim royalties to pay hospital bills. When historians eventually reckon with the full ledger, they will find a double entry system, one column for streams and ticket receipts, another for trauma that never makes a merchandise table. Acknowledging that cost does not demand boycotts, but it should complicate the applause, adding a minor chord tension every time the opening riff triggers nostalgia. Perhaps the truest country song has not yet been written, a ballad told from the victim's vantage, where the steel guitar weeps for burned forests and shattered jawbones, and the chorus refuses resolution. Until then, the record spins on, beautiful and troubling, needle-tracing grief disguised as rebellion. Johnny Cash stands apart because he managed to turn misdemeanors into mystique without ever serving a serious sentence. In 1965, he parked a camper in California's Los Padres National Forest while searching for rare birds, or so the story goes. A defective exhaust ignited dry brush, and wind carried flames across 500 acres, incinerating condor nests and costing taxpayers $500,000. Confronted by rangers, Cash allegedly scoffed, "I don't care about your DMN yellow buzzards." He was fined $82,000, pocket change compared to tour grosses, and wrote Ring of Fire jokes on late-night TV about his hot vacation. Earlier, customs agents had arrested him in El Paso with hundreds of pills taped inside a guitar case. Cash spent a night in jail, paid a fine, and emerged holding a Bible for photographers. The public forgave, preferring the man in black who sang for prison inmates at Folsom and San Quentin. Cash's ability to flirt with darkness, yet project empathy, remains one of entertainment's great paradoxes. He showed that an outlaw could crusade for native rights, prison reform, and gospel charity while still leaving scorch marks across the desert. Our circuit ends where it began, in that uneasy space where applause mingles with the echo of handcuffs. 12 artists, 12 different brands of chaos, jealous rage, statutory sin, barroom bullets, battlefield of addictions, and even ecological arson. Some paid with prison time, some with reputations, some with lives, and a few, like Cash and Nelson, somehow converted crime into currency so efficiently that lawmakers now quote their lyrics during policy debates. What threads them together is not merely recklessness, but narrative control. Each learned, either instinctively or by brutal experience, that scandal can be steered the way a steel guitar bends a note. Turn the wheel just right and dissonance resolves into harmony. Fans, hungry for authenticity, play along, believing redemption is always one chorus away. Yet victims breathe, scars ache, forests regrow slowly, and families replay worst nights forever. So the next time your playlist shuffles to a barn burner you love, Picture the court transcripts tucked behind the liner notes. Tap your boot if you must, but let the rhythm remind you that art is often carved from wreckage and that the line between sinner and song can be as thin and as sharp as a guitar string. Remember, legends are louder than evidence, but echoes fade slower than ballads, and truth, though off-key, still hums beneath every suspended chord waiting to resolve for those willing to listen closely. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.